Class 9, let's continue the chapter. Chapter number 8, South India and the Cholas. Let's talk about the central administration, the monarch, his ministers, and the other officials. So, king was the important, right? Important, um, or the center, we can say, which the whole system was based. So, the coronation ceremony was marked by many festivities. The huge resources of the kingdom, vast palace establishment, and the splendor of the court, they all enhance the power and the glory of the monarch, of the king, right? So the king had a group of ministers, and each minister is holding a different separate department to advise the king on administrative affairs, right? So the administrative system operated by a large number of officials, some were holding the higher rank, they were known as the Perundanams, and the other lower rank, belonging to lower rank, they were known as Sirudanams, right? So many of the offices had become hereditary. So hereditary means that is the profession which has been, or they passed on as a right from father to son, right? So some of the profession were hereditary, right? Okay, now next is provinces and other territories, divisions. Now the kingdom was divided into a number of provinces, number of areas called mandalams, each placed under the charge of viceroy, usually a prince of the royal family or one belonging to the landed nobility. Besides, there were the territories of those rulers who paid tributes, goods, or money to the Chola kings in return for protections. So the kingdom was divided into a number of provinces which were known as mandalams, and each mandalam were under the charge of the viceroy, right? Okay, the provinces were further subdivided into kotams, right? The other units of administrations were districts, nadus, and the other groups of villages, that is the kurams, and the village graman. All these territorial divisions had their respective assemblies, means group, comprised of notable persons and those representing economic and vocational groupings. Such an assembly of a whole mandalam was consulted, for instance, in connection with the exemption of land revenue because of severe drought in the province. Okay, time to time, the notable persons, they assembled, and they discussed the matter related to the economic and the vocational training, or vocational subjects, and also with the connection with the exemption of land revenue because of severe drought in the province, right? So such matters taken into the assemblies, and they discussed and they took decision together, right? So the provinces in the cholas, under cholas, they further, the kingdom further divided into the mandalams, and mandalams further divided into kotams, and kotams into the district, that is nadus, and the kurams and gramam. So gramam is village, right? So in this way they work. Okay, now village administrations, Gram Sabha. A most remarkable feature of Chola administration was the exceptional efficiency of the village institutions. These assemblies enjoyed full powers in the management of local affairs. The method of election was as follows: name slips of all candidates were thrown and mixed up in a pot, from which they were drawn one by a small boy. The results were announced by the village priest, right? So in this way the election was held in the village of the Chola administrations, or the Chola. Now the functions, the village, their functions and responsibilities. The assemblies administered justice within the village except the cases involving serious crimes. They regulated water supply, gathered taxes, and administered all charitable institutions such as schools, temples, etc. They could sell or donate land for religious purposes. Accounts were maintained with meticulous care. So, meticulous care means very strictly and very carefully calculated. If someone embezzled money, he was severely dealt with. So if someone was in village, the assembly administered justice within the village except the case involving crimes, serious crimes, right? Now the villagers, the elderly men, they regulated water supply, gathered different taxes, and administered all charitable institutions such as temples, schools, etc. Right? So they could also sell or donate land for religious purposes that they will decide, or they decide this, right? Accounts were maintained with meticulous, very carefully. It was handled, it was accounted. And if someone embezzled money, right, so he or she was severely punished for for embezzled money, right? Now the village assembly carried on its affairs with the help of smaller committees. So small committees, groups were there, each looking after the specific matters, such as one committee will look after tanks, cleaning of tanks, construction of tanks, right? Secondly, constructions and the cleaning of gardens. Third committee will look after the temples. Then fourth committee will look after justice and other general management, right? So the village assembly carried on its affairs with the help of smaller committees, smaller different committees, and each looking after this different or specific matters such as tanks, gardens, temples, justice, and general management. Now, come to the sources of revenue and expenditure. The land revenue is fixed at 1/6 of the gross produce. Whatever the produce will be there, 1/6 of the gross produce will be given to the government. Other important sources of income were the taxes on trade, mines, handlooms, water courses, of course, the customs, etc., and the duties on imported goods also. The main items of expenditure were the maintenance of the royal family, maintenance of the armed forces, construction of towns, temples, and works of public utility such as roads, tanks, and irrigation systems. So, whatever they took in terms of taxes, they spend those money for the in the maintenance of the royal family, maintenance of armed forces, like giving salaries to the armed armies or the armed forces, and constructions of towns, temples, public utility like parks, gardens, etc., and such as maintenance of roads, tanks, and irrigation system also, right? Now, so these were the sources of income or the revenue and expenditures. Now come to the army and navy. The Chola rulers maintained a large, well-trained army and an effective naval force. Naval force means navy. Water, right? So naval force, the army consisted of archers, foot soldiers, horsemen, and war elephants. So the soldiers lived in cantonment called kadagams, situated in the different parts of the empire. So cantonments means military areas where the soldiers lived, which were known by kadagams. So situated in the different parts of the empire, Chola Empire. Now Chola temples and their art. The Cholas built cities and beautified them with the majestic palaces and uh, grand temples. The chief features of Chola temples were the Vimanas or the towers, magnificent sculptures, pillared halls, all interconnected, and large gateway towers, gopurams, which are also covered with sculptures, right? So this Brihadeswara temple features I already told you. So we have already referred to some of the prominent features of this Brihadeswara temple at Tanjavur. The temple marked at the highest achievements of what temple building traditions. Besides features already mentioned, reference can be made for the following characteristics. One is given here. The temple consists of Nandi Mandap, a pillared portico, and an assembly hall, all interconnected. So a pillared porch, portico means porch, and a veranda we can say, or a porch, and an assembly hall, all they are interconnected. So this is the one of the prominent features of Brihadeswara temple. Next is the Mahamandapa was originally three-storied, right? So there are the three stories. The top story was an open terrace with a row of Nandis placed on the top of its wall, right? Now, like the other doorway, other entrances are also flanked by dwarpals. Numerous Sanskrit and Tamil inscriptions on it are in a fine calligraphy. So its wall was inscribed by with a fine calligraphy, and the you will observe, or you will see the Sanskrit and Tamil inscriptions engraved on its wall. And another imposing structure of the temple is the Amman temple housing Brihanayaki, the consort of Brihadiswara. Imposing structure in the temple is the Amman temple housing Brihanayaki. So Brihanayaki means representing Parvati, goddess Parvati, the consort of Brihadeshwara, the companion of Brihadeshwara means Lord Shiv, right? So now, in brief, the Brihadeshwara temple is the repository of every branch of art. So, repository means it's a collection of every branch of art and architecture, sculpture, painting, jewelry, dance, and music. Right now, another elegant temple at Tanjavur is dedicated to Lord Subramanya, and King Rajendra I also erected a splendid temple at his new capital, Gangaikonda Cholapuram. It is very much similar to the temple at Tanjavur, right? So its rich carvings are very, very impressive. The Chola period is also noted for its metal and stone images. The bronze figure of Natraj is matchless. So this is the picture of Natraj, Shiva. The bronze figure of Natraj is matchless, it's a masterpiece, we can say. It displays wonderful vigor and grace, right? So the temples of Cholas, or the Chola temples, had vimanas, that is towers, and magnificent sculptures, pillared halls, gateways, towers called gopurams, which were interconnected, right? And Brihadeshwara temple at Tanjavur was the greatest example, and which was constructed by Raja first. And another temple at Tanjavur was dedicated to Lord Subramanyam, right? And King Rajendra I also erected a splendid temple, very magnificent temple at his new capital, that was Gangaikonda Cholapuram, so which was very similar to the temple at Tanjavur, right? So its rich carvings are very, very impressive, and that is why the Chola period is also noted for its metal and stone images. The bronze figure of Natrajan, or Natraj, is matchless. It displays wonderful vigor and grace of the art and architecture of that period of the Chola rulers of the Chola period, right? Okay. Okay, children, we have completed the chapter. Now I'll take your leave, and all the very best for your pre-board exam, and do very well and give your 100% to score better marks. Thank you.